I'd really like to start getting into Asuka's backstory, just learning a lot about her, right? Learning more of the little things that they've hinted towards us. But like, I got that weird feeling that they're just gonna save that for like a really like climax moment that happens episode like 22 or 3 or something, you know? Like, I just got like, I got the feeling that we're not actually gonna get that for a bit. And I'm being a little too wishful, I guess, as to what they're going to feed us here. But I am interested. I mean, we spent the whole last episode kind of expanding outwards a lot more about Nerve, the way that things are kind of run, giving a lot more highlight and focus to Ritsuko, but also a lot more focus to just the organization itself and the people who are kind of the scientists and everybody behind it that are making everything kind of happen, who are making these Avas work and function properly and doing all the stuff with our main three kind of being sidelined for it. So it makes me curious because even in the episode while Masada was present was not like the focus point at any given moment. So I'm really curious if we just go back. I'm assuming we will to our other group, and if we're really gonna like where we're gonna go from here. I'm praying we don't get an angel attack. Like I'm praying. I said it I think one of the last few episodes, but we get to a point. A lot of older series do it where you have to have that like every episode just for the sake of like throwing in some action and some extra things in there. But like I don't know. At a certain point, you kind of just want them to focus story solely and not do that. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what we get, and not have to. Because I mean, they're doing a great job. Let me just say as well, they're doing a great job at balancing them. While we do have it every episode, tying it in very nicely into giving us a lot of different character moments and things that I think are very necessary. But I just know that a couple of the earlier episodes we didn't have to face an angel every single time, and now it's like the past like 7 there's been one. So it's like I just kind of want a break for maybe like 2 episodes in a row or something to build us up to something a bit more, because if you're getting one of those every time, you don't feel that fear of like, okay, this is gonna things are gonna go bad here, like, are they, there's a chance that they go bad, or that almost the nerves that you kind of get, how nervous I would end up being in those situations. Like I just kind of come to expect, all right, there's one that showed up, there's nothing for me to worry about now, you know. And the stakes don't feel as high as if like we wait a couple episodes and now they're like, all right, we built up to like a big one coming and now this is going to be a big moment for us. I feel like it just, the impact's a little different. So I almost am just hopeful we don't get one here, but I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If you like it all, hit the like and subscribe. Do mean a lot to me. Feel free to stick around for the discussion. Leave in the comments with this episode or series. Looks like I got one though with episode 14. Third angel again. Take you back to what was going on with everybody at the time of the attack, maybe? I still can't believe he did that. That was such a crazy thing. Mm-hmm. And it leaves only for Nerve to come in. The third child, Mr. Shinji himself. The boy. Accepts against will, yes. that's what I should have said. They pressured him by showing him the dangers that somebody else was put into. Things went bad. He had a pretty traumatic moment. The whole thing just kind of took over on its own, and he said, screw it. And out of nowhere, it came to life.
経験ゼロの少年が初陣に挑み、これを完遂せしめた事実。
He was different. That's what that means.
特筆に値するものである。
The explosion makes a cross. Noted. What are we building towards here? I don't need a recap. I know what happened.
今更って感じで実感なかったです。男の子は遠足気分で騒いでたし、私たちも怖いって感じはしませんでした。
The boys were like, oh, that shit's so cool. The serpent. I'm gonna be pretty pissed if this is a full recap episode and I'm just sitting here. However, in the short time frame that we had, we were able to still do it. He took it upon himself. He went fucking rogue again. The kid's unstoppable. Another pretty shot. It's like we're reading notes from something, you know? It's not like they're just like telling us, but the fact that like all this stuff flashes on the screen, it's like somebody's reading through files.
ペシミズムとも違う何かを彼女はすでに持っていると思う。同じ14歳とは思えないほどに。
I mean, you're kind of delusional though, so I don't know how serious I should take anything that you say. But at the same time, interesting though. I feel the same way about Asuka, but we'll see. It's crazy that in the intro I said I didn't want any Ava attacks this episode, and the entire episode so far they said fuck you, and have shown me recaps of every Ava attack. Like, why? Why must you torture me? Just let me live without it. Just one episode, please. The lads are able to synchronize, and then greatness occurs.
早すぎる。
さよ、人がネルフ本部に侵入するとは予定外だよ。
ましてセントラルドグマへの侵入を許すとはな。
もし接触が起これば、すべての計画が水泡と化したところだ。
委員会への報告は誤報。使途侵入の事実はありませんが。
では怒り、第11使徒侵
No. Technically, I don't consider it one.
ガリ君、この席での偽証は死に値するぞ。
マギのレコーダーを調べてくださっても結構です。その事実は記録されておりません。
笑わせるな。事実の隠蔽は君のお箱で。
Hiding the truth is your specialty.
の記述通りに進んでおります。
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
今回の
What?
君の罪と責任は言及しない。だが、君が新たなシナリオを作る必要はない。
分かっております。すべてはゼーレのシナリオ通りに。
Huh? Huh? According to who? According to what?
目に見えるもの、太陽、一つしかない
REI?
もの、
Settle down?
水、気持ちのいいこと、光知れる、花、同じものがいっぱい、いらないものもいっぱい、血の匂い、血を流さない女、赤い土から作られた人間、男と女から作られた人間。
I'm just gonna let REI spit here.
作り出したもの。
Okay.
人は何？神様が作り出したもの。人は人が作り出したもの。私にあるものは命、心、心の入れ物、エントリープラグ。これは私。私は誰？私は何？私は何？私は何？私は何？
Who am I? What am I? What is my purpose? I am myself, but what is myself, you know? 目に見える私。でも私が私でない感じ。とても変。 Yeah, yeah.
体が溶けていく感じ。私がわからなくなる。私の形が消えていく。私でない人を感じる。誰かいるの？この先に光知れ。あなた誰？あなた誰？あなた誰？
どうレイ、初めて乗った初号機は
Fucking awful.
光くんの匂いがする。
上がっていいわよ。
はい。
So all those things that we see, like the backgrounds and everything that come through, feel very similar to the space that she almost just went off to there.
当たり前でしょ。
Alright, good luck, brother. And you'd assume this should be similar based on the similar makeups of them.
神経パターンに問題なし。
初めての0号機。他のエヴァですもの、無理ないわよ。あの二人の機体交換テスト。私は参加しなくて。
No, your unit's a little different.
どうせアスカは2号機以外乗る気ないでしょ。まあ、そりゃそうだわ。確かにエヴァ2号機の互換性、効かないわね。
But why is that? Explain. There's no way that it's just as simple as you've tried stating before.
0号機のエントリープラグは
なんだか変な気分です。
Don't feel the same sort of connection?
いえ、ただ綾波の匂いがする。
Oh, that's it.
何が匂いよ。変態。
She said the same thing and you didn't even comment on it.
やはり初号機ほどのシンクロ率は出ないわね。
ハーモニクスすべて正常位置。
でもいい数値だわ。これであの計画遂行できるわね。
What is the
シス
plan?
テムですか。先輩の前ですけど、私はあまり。
感心しないのはわかるわ。しかし備えは常に必要なのよ。人が生きていくために。
So they're creating like clones essentially of them to operate within these, have something happen to the pilots, or just in place of them possibly.
の間で生きていくのが汚れたと感じたときわかるわ。それが
安定しています。
どうしんちゃん、ママのおっぱいはそれともお腹の中かな。
アスカ、ノイズが混じるから邪魔しない。
What is wrong with her?
はいはい。何をみんなしてシンジばっかり甘やかしちゃってさ。
頭に入ってくる。直接。
Uh-oh.
何か。
Oh, he entered the place. He entered the place.
違うのか。
どうしたの？
I have no thoughts. I'll think later. Oh, fuck. This has happened before.
0号機がシンジ君を拒絶。
ダメです。オートエジェクション作動しません。
また同じだ。あの時とシンジ君を取り込むつもり。
And the same thing where they're punching through the wall. She has faith, though. I'm just imagining a person doing this as opposed to the Ava, and that's fucking frightening. Like just losing themselves like that and smashing their head over and over.
まさかレイを殺そうとしたの？0号機が。
I don't think so. They do such a great job with locations that they have like these serious meetings and just talks in.
0号機
The
が殴
atmosphere
り
is
たかった。
crazy.
私ね。間違いなく。
We wake up in the hospital. This ceiling's familiar, right?
嫌だな。またこの天井だ。
And this ceiling brings bad memories.
汚染の後遺症はなし。彼自身は何も覚えてないそうです。
It's the same thing that happened before.
美里も梶さんも教えてくれない。シンジは知りもしない。ファーストってどんな子な？
くだらない連中だがな。
切り札は全てこちらが用意している。彼らは何もできない。
だからといってじらすこともあるまい。
で、我々のシナリオ通りだ。問題ない。
0号機の事故はどうなんだ？俺のシナリオにはないぞ、あれは。
支障はない。
That was not in my
レイと
script.
0号機の再シンクロは成功している。
レイにこだわりすぎだな、怒り。アダム計画はどうなんだ？
順調だ。2% も遅れていない。
では、ロンギヌスの槍は？
予定通りだ。作業はレイが行っている。
So we have multiple things really at play. A trident? What is she holding? What the fuck? To be continued. What a weird fucking episode, dude. Okay, alright. Let's just have a chat. Let's have a chat. I don't know. So weird enough for an episode that consisted of half a recap, basically. There's like a lot that I want to talk about. Like there's a lot that they presented in it. So we're just gonna kind of go through things, and it might be better. Yeah, it might be better if we just go scene by scene, and we kind of talk about it, the things that are being proposed, because I don't know. I'm gonna miss things if we don't. Yeah, we're just gonna do that. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna miss things anyways, just to make that clear. First half, basically recap, I think is really done well for recap, because instead of just telling it in like a weird way or just retelling it the same way that we kind of already know. We flash a lot of things on screen here. We provide more information, basically giving all the angels names and things. And while those names and stuff can be kind of important, I'm going to ignore them for now. I'll look at them again when I'm doing my editing and everything, but I'm gonna just leave myself under the impression that they don't matter. But maybe they do. Maybe they, in the grand scheme of things, they might, just because of the reference that we're getting towards a lot of different like religious and like Christian kind of theme things, it seems like so far. So maybe they all have names that kind of reference things, but I wouldn't know. And I also I'll just look later. So we're just going to assume that stuff's not as important for now, but if it is, you can always let me know. But I really do like the way that all of that is kind of presented. And you can tell with all the text and everything flashing on screen and the people kind of talking over it, and then us using like voice clips of like other people and people that they've almost been like interviewed and they have these things from, as if somebody is kind of reviewing the information that we have, which is what you're being presented when you're kind of being recapped with the stuff that's happening, and they're kind of recapping that to somebody. So we end up seeing, as we kind of flash a little bit forward, that yeah, that is the case. All this information is actually being currently presented within this meeting that we have. And we talk about Sealy or Seal or however you end up saying it, who is the basically organization, I'm assuming, who is well aware of the things that are actually occurring here. The organization I'm assuming that we're meeting with here, the organization that Gendo himself likely is a part of, would be my assumption here, which makes me really curious for what exactly his purpose for kind of being a part of all this is. I never really paid too much attention to what this group was. I just figured it was like, because he's at a top organization here that works with kind of covering these things up and handling a bunch of this, that it makes plenty of sense that he would be involved here, right? Like that would only make enough sense, that he would have to listen in on these meetings, because most of the time they're just yelling at him about, you know, the budgets and doing things wrong, and you know, things being too risky, and you know, he has to be more cautious with a lot of the things that he's doing. So you just kind of assume that that's where we're sitting with a lot of this stuff, but it seems like they're all a part of an organization that is basically following these Dead Sea Scrolls, so whatever that means, which I'm assuming are scrolls and things that were probably likely founded, like prophecies almost, of these things that were kind of described and written somewhere, that they likely found an assumption would probably be the South Pole and Antarctica and stuff. Maybe possibly why he was there recently was to figure out a bunch of extra things that maybe he needs, but I'm assuming that a lot of that would make sense based on where we see this other angel from the Second Impact and everything that we kind of encountered. A lot of that would make sense just by the naming and everything that we're giving it, but it could mean a variety of other things, I guess. But essentially it seems like this is like a sort of prophecy. It's these things that are kind of written. It's like the future that we're following. All of this is kind of described, and we know, like, yes, this is what's going to happen. An angel's going to attack here. It's going to do things. I mean, they've talked about how all of this is kind of on schedule. Now, the only thing that hasn't been on schedule so far leads to us having this attack that we ended up having on the Magi systems that we ended up seeing. And that is not a part of this at all. Something is weird. Also, for the fact that a lot of these attacks, the timeline is speeding up more and more and more, which is also not kind of what they expected at the exact time. So it seems they were probably given the information or have the information that these attacks were going to occur and that they would be able to defeat them, but none of that info of like the specifics and all this stuff was kind of listed in it. And Gendo himself has taken this upon himself to actually go out of the way and make all of this happen, and fulfill whatever it is his duty is, with Nerve and with this other organization, and actually making all of this, like stopping the angels for whatever that he can. But he also has a lot of other underlying things, like these intentions and stuff that they're not aware of, as they, you know, tell him that he needs to kind of be honest and tell them about these attacks and everything, where he claims that didn't happen, like none of this actually occurred. And they're just like, dude, we're literally gonna fucking kill you if that's not the case. You're not allowed just to lie to us and keep things from us. But of course he's going to, because he's trying to hide that information. I think that the intersection was really cool too, because it did showcase, I mean, we already knew this, but it showcased the evolution almost of what each of these angels were kind of capable of. The difficulty, well, I don't actually feel the difficulty. That would be my only criticism, I think, is each of these attacks that we're having, they don't feel more and more difficult. They were at a certain point, but we've gotten to a point where we take them out so much easier, it feels like. And maybe that's just because we've evolved, and maybe that's just because we have multiple people working on them and whatever it is. But I guess that they technically have gotten more dangerous. They all seem to be capable of a lot more things and a lot more strategic with the ways and the things that they're doing, how they're attacking. So I guess that kind of tracks. I just, like, for whatever reason, when I see them come up, I'm just like, yeah, we're just going to finish it. I'm not really too worried about what's going to happen. So maybe that's just a me thing. But I think that was really cool that they did showcase that, how all that stuff is like slowly getting more and more, as if these angels are being sent through or from somebody. So it's like they're kind of wearing them down over and over, and then they're sending the more and more difficult ones as time's passing. Like they're going through the line of defense almost that they have, to a point that they get to one that's actually not a part of what we're kind of expecting. It came a lot quicker as well. And this is something that they have to be cautious of course, because it's not foretold within the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is a big issue, right? And they're kind of a little bit worried about that. They tell him that he can't rewrite these things and he can't like create his own and do all of this, which it seems like that's the case that he's kind of doing. He's following these, and he's aware of the stuff that's happening, but at the same exact time, he's working on his own, and operating on his own with his own interests. I mean, he has a lot of different projects. That Human Instrumentality project. We have another one that they said at the end. I can't remember the name, but we'll see when we go back through. That's actually just a part of REI. He has another one as well that I can't remember the name. That we'll see when we go back through. But he has like 3 or 4 different ones that he's kind of working with here, that all have different purposes and things that he's kind of setting up, which is really interesting to see how much he's kind of juggling and working with here. I mean, he even talks about later how he has the upper hand, and like he has a whole bunch of things that he can use like as his trump card, and he's like not too worried about any of these situations, and he's just kind of, he's chill, right? Which is really weird. I mean, it would make sense now thinking back on why he's trying so hard with everything that he's doing, and how we actually see him on the front lines at certain moments and putting in the work. It's because he really, he needs to make the things that he's trying to make happen. Like he can't sit around and take a chance that none of this actually occurs. So he has to give everything that he basically has, which is really scary. I'm assuming all of this also involves us having Adam and doing all these things, which hasn't really been touched on by them. But they're also probably not aware that this is even a thing either. So he's likely a few steps ahead of everybody in this process. And I'm assuming, I mean, we saw before with like Ritsuko and Kaji and all of them, they seem to be kind of well aware of what he was talking about. And he brought them in, like, and he was almost like having them do things and set things up for him. So I was assuming that they were all kind of doing things, and somebody like Masato is not aware at all about what's happening. And while that could be the case, and maybe they're involved in certain projects, maybe they're not all involved in like each of them, and he only has certain ones doing certain things. So he's keeping certain people in the loop on certain things and out on others. So it's someone's maybe not fully understanding of what's happening and doing all these things. So like there's a lot at play that it leaves my mind completely at a loss, that I have no clue where we're going with it, and it leaves me really concerned, but very excited. So Sealy's script, I'm assuming, is I would guess an organization would likely be my assumption here, and they'd likely be the antagonists that we're kind of going against here, which is probably the people that are sitting directly at this table with us, who are aware of what's happening and for whatever reason are making the angels attack. But the angels are attacking Nerve specifically, which is where things are a little weird to me. So maybe that's not entirely the case now that I think about it. But I mean, I guess it could be, just because Gendo's the person who's a part of Nerve. So if he really has like some bigger plan that he's doing, it looks better on his part if these things are actually attacking him and his own organization, and trying to take them out. That would make like plenty more sense, because then they'd be less suspicious. They'd be like, why would he set that up in a way, or why would this be the case, you know, if he's actually operating against us? So I don't know. Next stage is REI seeing a whole bunch of things and using a lot of lines in a similar fashion that she did when we were looking out on the city, with Asuka and Shinji at one point. And I was like, all right, just whatever, REI, you're in your own little world here. And once again, it seems like she's in her own little world. And she's relating a lot of stuff, basically taking like small details of something and then expanding upon it, you know, and she's expanding upon like the creation of people and why they're actually here today, why certain things are like a certain color of what they are, or how that color symbolizes something else that was created or is a result of what actually happened, or what is occurring with certain things. And she relates all of these small things into like bigger pictures, or these bigger things into smaller things, depending on the direction that she's really going here. The things about this, like where where God being the creator of man, and then man and woman creating people, and then her being like human, but Rey's human, but wait, no, who is Rey? What is actually Rey? What is human? Is human creation of God? Like, what is all of this stuff? What is soul? What is like this? It's basically creating like this vessel of what a person is, and then she starts questioning herself and what exactly she's doing here and who she is, and we see a variety of versions of her and stuff, and she's like, all right, I'm me, but wait, what is me? Is me like an actual person or being, or like a soul, or is it just the vessel, the object, the shape that I kind of take on? Is it all just me? I don't feel like I'm me. Like, you can see that I'm me. It's like, it's weird, right? And it's somebody who's really out there questioning everything, and it's kind of crazy for her to think that way. I can no longer see myself. My shape is fading. Is there something beyond this, beyond what I am, beyond everything? And it's kind of crazy. It leaves me really wondering exactly what or who she is. It almost like it seems to me like in a lot of like movies or things that you see when like a awakening of like an object or of a like an artificial kind of thing, an awakening of someone or something, like a computer system, right, that is kind of coming to life or able to kind of gain things on their own, and now is actually actively like speaking out and kind of having their own thoughts and visions, and they're having their own, they can operate on their own almost as if they're not attached to anything. And Rey, for whatever reason, kind of immediately gives me those feelings of like, I'm not a real person, or my body and all this might be, but the actual thing on the inside, the soul that's in me, whatever that they're viewing as the creation of a person, and which is the thing that she's kind of questioning at this moment, whether it's a soul, or whether it's like a brain, or whether it's just a like whatever it is that actually makes a person, or if it's all of it entirely, is not like a real thing, almost as if it's a created being, something that's created through what Gendo is, somebody who is so cautious and worried about who Rey is, right? As we end up seeing at the meeting later that he has with the vice commander, of them talking, and he's like, he's a little too worried about Rey at this moment. It's like, yeah, it almost seems to me like he knows a lot more that he should, and she's not something that's just normal, which makes you really question that. It gets me a little concerned, because I mean, she could literally be herself an angel in human form. She could also just be like this artificially created thing. I mean, she also, we don't really know. It also could just be he found some sort of way to transfer souls of things, considering if we can go off the idea that she's like a vessel for something. I also could be yapping about absolutely nothing, and she could just be a normal human who's kind of questioning her own existence and life. We can also just play into that. But there's a lot of things that we can go into and wonder regarding her, and it makes me really weirded out, I guess, because I just don't know how to feel. And also I think that's just because I don't have the answers just yet, and I'll feel a lot better once I probably know. But it makes me like cautious, and it's going to make me overanalyze everything that she does going forward a little bit more, which you'll see we end up doing later when we start doing the cross synchronization of different Evas. So we began the cross synchronization here. We find out that Unit 2 with Asuka seems to be directly created for her. There's nobody else, that it won't accept anybody else. They're aware of that. They're not even going to attempt that. This is only for her, and there's nothing else for them to be kind of worried about. And they're trying cross between Rey using Unit 1 and Shinji using Unit 0. Reasons for that unknown. They do talk about dummies and creation of stuff like that, which makes me a little bit wondering, is this in case if everybody dies, we have like these artificially created people and things that can kind of take over and still operate our Evas? Or are they more of, we're synchronizing these things so that once we have like these levels, we can kind of inject these things or create these things as a result, because they know exactly how these things kind of operate and sync correctly with each of the systems? Is it so in case if things go really bad at any given moment and somebody gets hurt or one of the things gets damaged, they can kind of transfer and swap who's operating each of the different things? Like, I don't know exactly what it is. I love the things behind this here, and I've always wondered like the flashing images and stuff that we kind of see with like the colors changing behind them as like they're exiting, which almost like shows me the exact same space that Rei was just kind of in mentally when she was going through this beforehand. Rei seems compatible with unit number 1. While of course not on the same level as Shinji, she is compatible to a point that she can operate it and things are working. Which once again, if you're creating the soul of somebody, or if you're creating this vessel of a person here and you're going to implement them to do things, of course they'd be compatible with the things that you're trying to make them be compatible with. That would make plenty of sense. But it's not on the exact same level once again, because I mean, we even saw she wasn't able to get this to work prior to Shinji coming over and syncing perfectly and working with the Eva in the first episode. So clearly not on the same level, but there's a little bit of something there. I love Asuka's double standards here of us asking about Shinji and being like, oh, it smells just like Rei, and then her getting like completely pissed about it or calling him a pervert as a result. It's like Rei didn't just say the same thing. Like, are we just gonna ignore that happened? As we move on to another phase, Shinji gets overwhelmed here, and he starts getting visions. It's like somebody or something is sending things to him, and he's basically seeing a lot of visions and things of Rei at this point, it seems like. And it's like, what exactly is it trying to tell him or send him or allow him to see? Is this him syncing and connecting with this thing, and it is recognizing Rei or bringing up memories of her, and as a result it's kind of rejecting him as a person, and not wanting him as if she is the only pilot or thing that can kind of be involved? Is it some sort of jealousy thing that it has its own life form in a way that it can actually like figure this out and take out thoughts that he has like memories of this other person or thing that they hold dearly to them and they have a problem with? Is it just I don't know. It could be, I guess, other things. So there's nothing coming to mind about what it would be. But it's happening basically, which is not a good thing at all. It goes rogue again at this point, which we've seen before, the first time when Rei was actually piloting it. So it doesn't, so that's the thing where like now thinking about it, it doesn't make sense that it would be, okay, it's just rejecting Shinji being the pilot because he was doing the exact same thing when it was Rei, as if it doesn't want somebody to pilot it, or as if it is at a level that's like higher than the other ones in some sort of way that it allows it to kind of break free and have its own kind of thing, similar to the theory and the guess that I had like with Rei earlier of her kind of breaking free and starting to have her own like thoughts and visions of these things, almost as if this thing is actually like in a similar situation. I mean, I guess, and we could even play the vessel thing into the Avas are being the vessels themselves for these living beings to kind of take after and control and be a part of. But it attacks basically right in this exact situation or same exact spot that Shinji's father was standing in before, and not moving at all. It's like an exact mirror of that situation, her being completely unfazed, as if she almost expects this thing entirely just to stop. She knows it won't actually attack her. She knows that there's nothing for her to be worried about here, and she's not going to get hurt, as if she knows this is ending here, or she knows the limits that it would possibly go to. I mean, and maybe what if even those visions are like her not being a part of it, but it's still being like as her or something. It's like somebody that is similar to her, or somebody that like lived like her before, and she's just kind of living in the preserved body almost as if a vessel herself for it. And those visions are simply like her kind of overriding, or her kind of sending her own thoughts and things into it and acting it out on its own. I mean, I find that hard to believe, but it's just like, it's ideas and things I'm kind of bringing up here. We do talk about in that moment too of everybody thinking that it's targeting Rei, where I really don't think is the case. I mean, we see once again where Ritsuko later on thinks that it's actually targeting after her, which would make a lot more sense. I don't think it's targeting Rei specifically because she was in it before when it kind of went rogue, and Shinji's dad was kind of standing there, so it would make you almost think like in that situation it was targeting him and now it's targeting her, but I don't buy that. And then Ritsuko making like, yeah, it's actually after me, could make a lot more sense because she was in the room both times that's happening, as the one who basically is like creator of the Unit Zero would make plenty of sense too, right? And also as if we play around with like family and a lot of those things at times. So her mom being the creator of like this entire like computer system and database and everything that they have operating with these things, could also just be like maybe it's something and information and stuff coming from her mom that's after and targeting her that somehow is involved in some sort of way within these things. I guess also could technically be the case. And there's probably other things as well that I'm not picking up on entirely, but I guess that all could be a part of this. We end up seeing, this is a really just cool set for us to kind of be in location. They do a really good job at that with having like these big open spaces that just really add to it. Shinji wakes up, of course he loses all memories too, they all get wiped out. So every time that you enter these state or start seeing these visions and all these things, I mean, we know this is the third time, I guess, now that we've seen Ava kind of go rogue at any given moment and having somebody kind of woken up with no memories of what's happening. But he basically sees a familiar ceiling this time, something that he absolutely hates, of course, because it's bad memories. You can't remember the things that happened before. But it's also like, I hate just randomly waking up in this sort of location because of a result of what came next and what he had to do, the trauma that came of the situation that he ended up finding himself in, that he was put into. Asuka being kind of pissed about what's going on, about how nobody really understands or knows what's going on with REI. Of course, I mean, you would take an interest in that or be kind of bothered by that. We talk about trying not to provoke anybody. Things are going according to our script, not the script that everybody else is following. We have our own things that we're kind of going out of our way with. Okay, so Adam Project was another one. So Adam Project seems to be almost, unless all of these are fused into the main project that we're kind of working on here, but he has 3 separate projects that he's kind of working behind here, and all of the things are basically working out great. And then they have another operation here, which is called something, I can't remember what it was called, but basically she has some sort of sphere and she's going out as if she's going to be targeting and attacking after something. What exactly it is, I have zero idea. But I'm really, I don't know, I'm interested, but we're using her for something and there's a purpose for her, almost as if she was the intended purpose, like initially, for whatever this obstacle that we're kind of trying to get over here is, but for whatever this project as well that he's working on. A whole lot happened just in half an episode, which is kind of insane to think about. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic, pretty trippy, pretty just like great job at really setting things up and allowing you to almost have theories and figuring out these things. But I'm really interested to kind of see the direction that we head a little bit more, as we'll kind of get answers as things keep going. And I'm hopeful that we're going to keep following things along this path. In really giving out a lot of information. I feel like episodes like that, like just what that second half was able to present, if we can keep getting just full episodes like that, I'll be very, very thrilled. Even if we only get half episodes like that and they're like, we have to fight an angel throughout this, you know, like I don't care. I do not care. I'd be plenty okay with that being the case. Hopefully we get a lot more of that. And I thought this was fantastic. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it all, hit like and subscribe. Do mean a lot to me. Feel free to check out the other videos and channel and comments of this episode or series. I'll be back very soon for episode 15. I hope you guys have a great one. Peace.